Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I'm our banner pilot. I'm going to move this down so I can actually look normal when I'm playing this. So, we're not doing Doom tonight. I figured since yesterday was the release of a pretty rad game that I've been waiting for came out, I figured we'd go ahead and play this. There's also another game that I want to do that's made by Sega as well, but that one's a bit of a longer one to do, and I figured this one will be kind of a quick one. I probably won't do a full playthrough of this. I think what we're going to do is we're just going to go through the first couple levels. I'm not too pleased with some of the things they changed in this game. For those of you who don't know, this is called Panzer Dragoon. It was originally released for sorry, when I get the cartridge out of it. It was originally released for the Sega Saturn. This is mine right here, Model 2. Very cool game. Basically a rail shooter like, well, pretty much similar to Star Fox 64, the original Star Fox. This one was a little bit different than that in that it allowed you to look not just ahead of you, but you could change the camera to aim side to side or even behind you. As the name implies, well, kind of alludes to, and I'm sure you can see the shadow flying around too. You're not flying some futuristic spaceship or whatever. You're flying around on a dragon. A very cool dragon. It shoots lasers out of its mouth. But anyway, they just remade this game for this, almost said Sega Saturn. Wouldn't that be something? They just remade it for the Nintendo Switch. I hear there is going to be a re-release, or a port of this on Steam and Stadia, if anybody actually plays that. I, for one, am hoping that they release it on Xbox. But before they do that, I do believe they need to patch a couple things. And I'll go ahead and get this started, kind of talk about that as we go on. Oh, right. I'm going to stick with normal. I'll go ahead and let the cutscene play out. So there you have it. That's the intro cutscene. Pretty faithful to the original. I find the fact that the Elam doesn't even look up or anything is kind of funny. Not Elam. That's a Oddworld creature. Um, the creature he was riding doesn't. I think in the original game it looked up before it died, but or I should say crushed. Um, but yeah, so we're taking control of that guy who just hopped onto the dragon. His name is Kyle Fluge. That facility that he was in with all those things hanging up and whatnot, that's an Ancients facility. They don't really get elaborated on in this story. They get elaborated on more so in... Well, really, they start to get elaborated on in the third game in the series, Panzer Dragoon Saga, which is an RPG and a much different title. Super heavy on story and incredibly expensive. But let's go ahead and hop into this. First complaint that I have is the load times. They're a little long for a download-only title, but it is what it is. But anyway, oh, right. Here's a complaint that I have about it so far. So, I'm pretty much mashing the A button here, trying to shoot my gun. It isn't nearly as fast as I was hoping it was going to be. I'm not entirely sure if they toned down the speed on it. It's also really hard to lock onto things compared to the original. I think it's focusing the lock-ons on the smaller square in the reticle. That was a little cheap. In the original game, I feel like it had a much larger hitbox, or a detection box, when you'd lock on enemies to shoot them with the laser. And in case you haven't played it before, which I'm sure a lot of you haven't, to lock on enemies, you hold down the fire button. In this case, it's A. Or in this case, it would be B on a Switch controller. I'm only referring to it as A because I'm using an Xbox One controller. Oh, got cocky there. But yeah, you know, whatever your fire button is, you hold it down, move your cursor over the enemy and stuff, and then you let go, and it kills whatever it's locked onto. But yeah, that's one of my issues. Also, the button when you click to turn to the side, it's very delayed compared to the original. Now, these are just kind of complaints from somebody who's played this, or who's played the original game. So, you know, if you're new to the series, I wouldn't bash on it too much, especially if you're not used to the original, but it is a little awkward, you know, just that camera control and stuff. It doesn't feel right, in my opinion. That being said, you know, I'm not even talking about the obvious positive side of this. Look at those, just the graphics in general, and the fresh coat of paint this game has. I don't think I ever played the original game for you guys, but I definitely want to, you know, show that off at some point, because, you know, this is beautiful compared to that one. Not saying that the original is ugly looking at all. I mean, that one's pretty beautiful too. But I gotta say, they've really nailed it out of the park with the design on this. I do feel it's a bit too colorful, but I'm not too upset about that. I mean, that's probably more on the nostalgia side for me. Personally, I've had a lot more history with the sequel to the games, more specifically Panzer Dragoon Orta for the Xbox. It's not a very, like... Well, actually, it's pretty colorful, but I feel like they did a much better job with the color in it. Because this series isn't exactly the most chipper of series. Wow, that frame rate, though. I know this is on Switch, so I'm not going to give it too much of an issue, but I hope that gets taken out in the PC port and in the hopeful Xbox port if we get one. See, I don't understand why they the deal is with some of these Sega IPs going over to like other consoles and stuff. Don't get me wrong, I don't think that they should be exclusive to the Xbox or whatever, but I do believe that they should get released on a console that's, you know, relative to them and stuff. Shenmue 3, for example, that's like the big one that's really ticked me off. Did they really just have to make it a PS4 exclusive and a PC exclusive? It just seems really... Wow, that was terrible. It just seems really lame that they're not doing like an Xbox release or something. That's where Shenmue 2 came out. I think I've already discussed this too, so I won't go too hard on that. And I can't complain too much right now because Sega released Phantasy Star Online 2 on the Xbox. Just really hoping for that PC release. Phantasy Star 2 is one of those games I don't mind playing on a PC versus the console. I know technically I should be griping about it, you know, if it has like a console release. Or I should be griping on it if it only had a PC release or whatever, because technically Phantasy Star started on the Dreamcast console. So I should be more used to playing it on a PC, but Phantasy Star 2 started off on the PC. And I feel like Phantasy Star 2 and even Phantasy Star 1, honestly, they both work a lot better on PC. There are a lot of buttons that you gotta go through and stuff, and I feel like a controller... Whew, I almost got killed by that. They don't do the controls justice. I mean, unless you're rocking like a Dreamcast keyboard or whatever, then, you know, by all means, it's probably better on the Dreamcast in some cases. I think that it got a graphical update in the later releases. Either way, it looks beautiful, and Phantasy Star Online 2 is looking beautiful too. I'm just really hoping that they give us the option to use keyboard controls and stuff for the Xbox version, or they hurry up with the PC version. Either way. But that's episode 1. They're not very long levels, and also that's another thing I wanted to bring up that I wasn't really thinking about, but it's kind of come to my attention. Right now, this game is selling for like $25 on the Switch shop. To be fair, this game hasn't been out. Or this game has been, you know, actually, no, I can't say that. Technically, you can get the original game on Panzer Dragoon Orta. You have to unlock it, but, you know, it only takes one playthrough of that game. And if you put time and effort into it, or you just let the game run for 20 hours, because that'll unlock everything in that game, literally, you know, you pretty much just saved yourself a bunch of money. Now, Panzer Dragoon, I think, is like $10 on Xbox right now. You can even play it backwards compatible on the Xbox One, which is fantastic. I think it looks great with the enhancements and stuff. Well, I mean, as enhanced as it can get. But, you know, just that waiting time for getting Panzer Dragoon 1 on there is not too terrible, in my opinion. But with that being said, you're also not getting the updated visuals and stuff, which is pretty much this game's big selling point. There's also a new controller scheme. I haven't really messed around with it yet. I assume it uses gyroscope or it allows you to use gyroscope controls, but I'm not too sure. Honestly, I don't think that would work too well either, because you're having to swap between different camera angles. But let's go ahead and start up this next one. But yeah, if you're looking for... Oh. Sorry about that. that was another cutscene. That, by the way, I'm kind of straying away from the story here. Those guys are this game's empire. Literally, they are an empire. And that's pretty much their little flying warships. They're essentially after the Ancients' technology at this point. Again, it's not really elaborated on too much because our goal is simple. We just have to go and stop that dragon from getting to that tower before, obviously he gets there. But the Empire's after that tower too, because that tower controls all the monsters and allows them to use the technology that they possess, because the Ancients created all these monsters and stuff. Basically, we're in like this post-apocalyptic world, and we're just kind of making the best of it in this game. So, kind of cool. I highly recommend reading up on it. I would play the games first, but considering Panzer Dragoon Saga hasn't been announced as a remake yet, it's potentially coming out as a remake, but I'm not crossing my fingers on that yet until they patch this game, because I hate to be critical, but honestly, I don't see this as a very good port. Apart from the graphics and stuff, I do feel like the controls are kind of what's killing this game for me. The firing rate, like I said, is a little bit too slow compared to the original. Maybe I've just got, I don't know, maybe it's perfectly fine. I'm just not remembering it very well. But I do feel like it's a little bit slower paced in this one. Also, walking on the enemies, good grief, that really needs to be changed because it feels so hard to lock on enemies. You saw me going back and forth with the crosshair too. Maybe I'm just doing something wrong, but it feels really off. Apart from that, and also the camera being kind of delayed too. I feel like they should really fix that. If there's one thing they need to fix, it's that. But yeah, that's all I gotta say there. So right now we're just flying through this desert here, trying not to get killed by these birds. I'm sure they're gonna shoot boogers at us. Oh, shoot little guys at us. But yeah, those are my big gripes with this. All right, hold on. I have got to get rid of the desktop audio there, because that's gonna get annoying. We got Messenger on here going all the time. But I love the look of this. I think it looks a lot more pleasing to the eye compared to the Saturn one, which isn't too hard. I mean, the Saturn wasn't known for its pretty visuals or whatever. Unless it was a 2D game, then yeah, that stuff looked amazing. But okay, that looks a lot better. That was the other thing I was having trouble with when I was playing this the first time. Trying to figure out the camera controls in this. Normally, it's mapped to like some shoulder buttons or whatever, but it's not in this one. But anyway, going back to what I was saying about me thinking this isn't going to have a very good release, or with all the criticism that I'm giving it, again, I gotta say, I think there's a couple things that are kind of making it a bit of a negative release. Controls aside, it's also a $25 game. Now again, we haven't seen this game get an official release outside of the Saturn and technically the Xbox as well. But I do believe that this game should be a little bit cheaper considering the length of the game. This game only has like 6 episodes, I think. And if that first level seemed short, well, guess what? This level's pretty much done here too. They're only like 10 minutes long. And yeah, I really wish they'd lower it down just a tad bit. If it was like $20, then I probably wouldn't be too upset. Well, actually, that sounds petty. I honestly think it should be about $15. But $25, that's a bit much. At least add some, like, ooh, jeez. At least add some extras and stuff like that to it. Give us different modes, allow us to fly as different dragons or whatever. If you want to sell it for 20 or above, I honestly would have sold this with Panzer Dragoon, or yeah, Panzer Dragoon 1 and Panzer Dragoon Zwei, or the sequel, Panzer Dragoon 2. I feel like just having those two games on a single release would have made this a little bit more fun and worth the price. But again, that's just my opinion, I think, for the general consumer, this is an okay release. I just wish that they'd have given us a little more in terms of the price and pretty much what we've been given. While I'm critical of it, I am glad that boss fight. I am glad that we have renewed interest in this series because for the longest time this game hasn't really been given any recognition at all except as like a cameo or whatever. Sega's real focus in terms of its IPs is mostly on Sonic and like a couple other game titles, like I guess what is it? Yakuza and a couple of those other games. Skies of Arcadia is another one, I think. The Tales games as well. There's a lot of games that they focus on. That boss is defeated pretty quickly. But anyway, it's nice to see that the older IPs are getting a bit of a resurgence. I would love to see Lunar make a return. I'd love to see games like I'd like to see an Altered Beast resurgence. I think that would be really cool. Just bring back some of these older IPs. Shenmue got one, even though it's not under Sega anymore. It's still a Sega franchise that came back. Also, I should explain this while we're here. So you get scored at the end of every episode. Depending on how well you did, you can get credits, which are this game's lives. You can die, and you can get a game over in this. There is no, like, infinite continues or anything. Pretty much like an arcade game, so, try to stay focused when you're playing. Otherwise, you're going to get killed pretty quickly. We're going to go ahead and do one more level of this. Considering there's 6 episodes, I think it's 6 episodes. Might be 8. Either way, we're pretty much almost done with this game. But I can go ahead and pick it up tomorrow, or if not, I'll be playing Doom. I want to be clear, I'm not going to stop doing Doom 2. We're still doing it. I haven't given up that easily. But, I really wanted to show this off today because this is really important to me. I've been super excited about this release. I'm very happy that it came out, it's great. I just wish that, I wish it was a little bit better. But if you want to see them continue this series and stuff, continuing with the... Well, I want to see that crash. Okay, that looks pretty dope. if you want to see the rest of this series come out, I highly recommend buying this one right now as it is. I'm sure the controls will get patched out and stuff. So, you know, just bear with them. Ooh. See, that's one thing I do love about the Panzer Dragoon series, among other things as well, is it's a very cinematic game. This is also a very beautiful game too. It doesn't matter what you play it on. This has some of the best artwork I have ever seen in a game, or in a Sega game. And that's not really my Sega bias going off. It's more just, you know, from a cosmetic standpoint. These games are really beautiful looking. If it's not the design of the game, it's the music direction too. I think most of the music kind of kicked up when Panzer Dragoon Saga and stuff like that came out. 'Cause they had vocal tracks in those games, and there were only like 2 or 3 of them, but they were beautiful. I absolutely love those, and hopefully we'll be able to get to those at some point. I'd really love to do a playthrough of Panzer Dragoon Saga. I don't own the game, but I really hope it gets re-released as like a remake or whatever, or they just release the source code to it or whatever, so we can actually, you know, make a port ourselves, or just re-release the original game. Honestly, there's so many ways they could go about this. This looks really familiar. Not because of the fact that this looks like the level from Panzer Dragoon. Honestly, this looks very similar to how a level in Panzer Dragoon Orta looks. There's this village that you start off in that you're trying to escape the Empire from. I'm doing a terrible job at dodging all this stuff, but the city looks a lot similar to the buildings in the background and whatnot. I don't know which way I should be looking. I haven't played this game in a while either, so I'm probably doing a horrible job here. Oh, okay. I thought those were just generic TNT bundles they were throwing off. They're barrels. Yeah. Oh, wow. They're shooting them up at me. I might actually die here. We'll see. I don't think I'll be too in trouble. We're already up to our boss fight. I'm really curious to know what they did design-wise to this thing. Alright, looks a little bit different, but it's okay. So, I'm not really making it look very obvious, but you can actually dodge stuff in this game. It's a little bit harder to, though. You don't have quite the same amount of freedom of movement as you did in, like, Star Fox or whatever. Oh! They're not giving me a lock-on position. Oh, okay. I see now. I just want to make sure I don't get hit. Okay. Come on. Okay. That's not too bad. Just keep shooting that center. That'll get rid of that part, I think. Oh, no. It just reconfigures. It's so hard to tell. It's a lot different than, or it just feels a little bit different than it used to be. Oh, almost didn't see those. They stick out a lot more than they did in the original. Well, when they start actually hurtling toward you. Okay, he's going to be up front. You can tell where he's going to land if you look in the top right corner. You've got a little radar. It's pretty generic, but it does help. That's how you're able to tell, you know, which camera angle you're supposed to be looking at and stuff. Not too shabby. And in case you guys were wanting to, oh, those are gonna blow up in front of me. Yep, I gotta be careful here. Ouch. For a rail shooter, there's a lot of multitasking that you have to do in this. As you can see, I'm almost dead. But he's almost dead too. If I just get a couple more shots in on him. Oh. Alright, guess he landed too hard. Yeah, it's being kind of stingy with where I'm supposed to hit him. Gotta watch out for those wings, because apparently those can hurt you. Should know that, but I don't know, it's just so different. Well, there's that boss. And if you turn your camera around, you can pretty much see him. Oh, well. Alright, they used to let you see him crash. Okay, you can still kind of see him crash. But there you have it. You know, first 3 episodes completed. They do give you a generous continue option. Compared to the original Sega Saturn version, that's pretty merciful. Because in the original Saturn version, I don't even think you... Well, you got lives, but you didn't have a continue option. I think in Panzer Dragoon's Vi, you had a save feature. I'll have to look back on that. That's the one Saturn game that I have. You know, they're relatively expensive games, so I wish I had a copy of the original for the Saturn, but that's like $50. And then Panzer Dragoon Saga, you know, there's a reason why a lot of people don't have that one and probably haven't heard of that one either. It is infamous for being one of the best RPG games ever made, but it is also, well, I guess it would be kind of... Yeah, it's pretty much infamous. But it's also infamous for, unfortunately, being one of the most expensive games you'll ever buy. Originally, it was probably sold for $60. They only made so many copies of it. So now you're looking at a $2,000 game. Definitely explains why I don't have it, why I probably will never have a copy of it for the Saturn, unless I get one of those, like, Etsy copies or whatever. I'm sure somebody on Etsy probably has like a bootleg version of it, or a reproduction, I should say, which I would probably be okay with having. I mean, considering my only options are getting a bootleg or spending all that money to get it, and then of course there's the obvious, you know, other methods of getting it, but personally, for a game like that, honestly, you really want to get like a physical copy of it. It's a pretty nice nice package, and it looks beautiful. I mean, it's definitely a conversation starter because, again, it's one of the most it's one of the most, if not the most expensive Saturn game you can ever have. For those people that have it out there, good on you, because man. You know, that was a really good idea getting that at the time you did. I've only ever seen one in person, and it was a pretty good price for it, honestly. But again, you know, you're looking at like $500+ for a game. It's just something I can't really, you know, justify putting enough money into. I've never played it, and I honestly have only seen like a little bit of gameplay footage of it. Also, I'm not much of a JRPG kind of guy, even though, you know, what I have seen of it, it doesn't look entirely like a JRPG. It looks a little more involved, but you know, like I said, we'll see. But with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and end the video here. I'll go ahead and reiterate my final thoughts, or my initial thoughts of this. You know, as it stands right now, I think it's a decent game. I just wish that they'd have done a couple things differently. For starters, I really wish they'd have worked on the control a little bit better. And no, it's not because I'm playing with an Xbox controller either. I did play it. Well, as soon as I bought it, I started playing it up with the Joy-Cons attached and whatnot. Maybe it's different with a Pro controller. I'm not entirely sure, and I won't know until, you know, things start to settle down. But I'm pretty sure it's how it's mapped out. According to a couple other reviewers, they were pretty much agreed on that. Also, I do believe that it should be a little bit cheaper. You know, bring it down to at least like $20. Save a couple people $5. Because as it is right now, it's right up there next to $30, and that's, you know, it just seems like a bit too much for a game that's only going to last you about an hour. Granted, you can play through it on hard mode and stuff, and that'll probably make it about an hour and a half, but still, again, it's pretty lame considering the cost per gameplay. Unless they add like some DLC to it or something that gives us extras or just more to play with and whatnot, I do believe that it should go down to 20. If anything, it should go down to 15. But yeah. Anyway, I'm yammering on and on. I hope you guys like this, and I hope you guys give it a try too. I wouldn't blame you if you waited for a price drop or whatever, but you know, again, they are counting on this to sell pretty well too. So if you guys want to see like Panzer Dragoon's Vi and Saga come out, you know, I definitely recommend getting this when you can. So it's kind of like with Shenmue 3. Although with Shenmue 3, I've pretty much given up hope on there being an Xbox release. They keep saying, you know, if you buy more of it, eventually there will be a Xbox One release, but I've kind of given up on that. I'll probably just end up getting that on a PlayStation. But finding a way to play an Xbox or with an Xbox controller, it's the only thing that really bugs me about it. I just want to be able to play with an Xbox controller. That's all. I can always get it for PC, but it's a console game. But anyway, yeah, you guys have a fantastic day, night, wherever you may be. I will see you guys tomorrow. You guys take care and stay safe.